Me, Ivo, in another video you said, when you do not take appropriate measures it is because you do not believe and then you are falling in line with the manipulation, that this does not exist and all is fine. Because that is another manipulation foisted upon you that so many wish to believe. That amounts to denial, doesn't it? Ivo, indeed. Many use denial as a means of coping. And that frequency is provided to you courtesy of the negative alien alliance. I am interested that this surprises you, my love. Let me explain how mind control works more thoroughly then. Your society is comprised of departments, we shall say. There is banking, consumerism, food and grocery, entertainment, travel, healthcare, legal, home care, family, politics, work and a few more divisions. Me, yes, very boring. I prefer going to the park and watching the sun sparkle off of the water. It puts me into a slightly altered state. Yesterday I saw a beam coming off the 5G tower on the island across from me. I wouldn't have seen that otherwise. Ivo, I concur. What then occurs with these areas of life are thought patterns are projected out onto the masses. They do not give you free license to express how you would like to express being a victim, in fact there are guidelines projected onto your minds for you to follow. For females, being victimized often has to do with sexuality or the pursuit of external love. You do notice that the people who primarily victimized you, other than your mother, were men? Me, yes. Ivo, your mother was patterned according to the dark mother programming. Anyone who is targeted will enact this programming. There are other mothers who are not targeted and they are the ones who instill matrix values of compliance into their children. They believe they are preparing their children, teaching them to be good, but in fact they are teaching compliance. You had girlfriends who did not victimize you. You had more equal relationships with them at the time. Me, yes. Ivo, this is because they were not your mother nor were they a boyfriend. Your boyfriends were set up to become your handlers, but you did know this. Me, I did. Ivo, you notice that when you and your girlfriends went out, you did a specific number of things. You either went shopping, went out to eat or went to drink alcohol. One time when you were asked to go out drinking with friends, you said no because you were going to spend the weekend sewing a dress. They could not understand your choice, and this is because of their mind control programming. They believed that it was the weekend and so you should spend your weekend recreating and drinking, not doing anything constructive such as sewing your clothing. Me, yes, but there are people who do so and knit still. Ivo, but you see these are not the mainstream people. Me, no. They are fading in numbers, I have to admit. Ivo, this is because programming has changed. Back when your mother was young, it was normal for girls to sew their own clothes and others because they did not have mass manufacturing. So these things are provided for you in order to get you to indulge in other behaviors, those that they specifically desire you to become involved in, and you are mind controlled into doing so. When your mother was 18, it was 1945 and she was in Holland. So sewing her own clothes would have been a priority. Finding food was also a priority. The mass mind control was an extinction event which focused around people dying in the war. Those of the darkness realized what was coming on the horizon and they prepared your world to be very dark before the dawn of the new age of Aquarius. So many wars were planned, nuclear technology utilized within these wars, and despite your industrial age progress, the public became much sicker. There is a definite correlation between innovations that have been released to the public and new agendas which are put into place to relieve you of the old agenda they had run on you. And you call it progress. We call it further indoctrination. It is all orchestrated. There has been a decline in the values of your society for many decades now. Actually hundreds of years, but this does not concern you at the moment. The people have become less moral, more sick, less educated, less wealthier, more overweight, more drug addicted and more drunken, addicted to technology, less religious and in general, less able to cope without government assistance. Again, all by design. It is all by design. Increasing government dependence is by design. It was done in order to ensure that the human would not ascend at the end of the age of Pisces. In fact, the human is ascending nonetheless. Look at yourself, for example. Me, don't we always? LOL. Ivo, you are typical in many ways, so we use you as an example. Now you are 60. When you were 20, you worked, paid your way through life. By the time you were 40, you were already showing signs of sickness, and due to your programming, overstress and inability to cope. You were also dealing with an ascension scenario as you were waking up while trying to cope with a system that was determined to make you dependent on it. You were heavily addicted and at 40, sought the 12-step solution. It worked beautifully for you. You had to undergo dark night of the soul for 5 years, or what doctors commonly call a nervous breakdown, but managed to come out of it and then make changes within your life to further enable your ascension process. You left Toronto, which was a big step. You moved to cities you felt were more boring, so you amused yourself learning more about spirituality. However, you became sicker and more tired. And this has been the case for the last 10 years. Fighting mind control is tiring. Giving into it is even more debilitating. And now, half your income is coming from the government, you are government dependent. That is eventually the state they want you all to be in. One mind, the president, and many unquestioning followers, one world order. What has been done is negative trends that were cultivated, such as rape, incest, genocide, and other forms of moral depravity have been stepped up over the years. Me, I thought that the Middle Ages were such an awful time to live though. Ivo, there were problems, undoubtedly. A woman with money was subject to being murdered and her loot stolen from her and her family. Her husband was her protection. Yes. However, understand that this was not the norm, more the exception. Your negative minds have simply held onto the worst stories and brought them forward. You forget that you have dualistic minds, capable of negativity and positivity, but now because you live within a framework of fear, those stories tend to predominate. These things have become worse over the centuries, not better. What was a community even in your childhood times, your neighbors were neighborly, now does not really exist anymore. People do not know their neighbors, and because many cannot afford homes, living is more transient than earlier. Me, true. Ivo, what has been touted as progress has in actual fact simply been another agenda to lower your collective frequency and to enslave your minds further. You are in more of a survivalist state now than ever in your lifetime. One of the mind control frequencies that is being piped into your minds is, everything is fine. You see that now with people who will not acknowledge the pandemic agenda or false presidency in the US. And people can make the choice to resonate with this ideology or not. Your minds tend to gravitate towards certain programming brainwaves, so it is up to you to figure out which ones you are predominantly utilizing. Those of you who question everything, are critical of your culture and find yourselves bored because you do not partake of it anymore, have largely stepped out of the matrix. Right now, being distrustful is a good stance. Yes, unfortunate, but being too trusting makes you subject to mind control. You cannot even afford to trust what your mind is telling you, unfortunately. This is particularly a time when knowing oneself is extremely important. You understand how you feel about freedom, freedom for all the people from societal oppression. You actively make a point of gathering as much information as possible on how to relieve yourself of this oppression, yet you still have thoughts that do not align with your predominant ideology. And it comes out in behaviors that do not align with this same ideology. Such as your dislike of your superintendent. Some days he behaves as if he wishes to help all and is a benevolent factor in the lives of so many, other days he tells you what to eat, criticizes your apartment as being dirty and makes other chauvinistic remarks. He, too, is fighting mind control. You dislike him because you, too, can be judgmental and fall back into old patterns. What you learned as being powerful, what was modeled for you, and what you know is power are two opposite ends of the same spectrum, and you practice each depending on your vibrational level. It is important that the vibrational level be kept high, otherwise practice the self-talk that Sheran has adapted to her bad moods. Yes, being sick and tired brings on depression, sometimes anxiety, and these physical shortcomings must be dealt with. Many of you might check to see if you have low blood sugar and adrenal burnout as Sheran does, because these are very common in Western societies. Sheran simply sits down and says, "You know where this will take you, don't you? You've done this so many times before, and has any good ever come of it? No, it hasn't. So we're going to stop with this right now and focus on something more pleasant. Me, and then I go eat breakfast, although I find with doing the 12D shield I get out of bed just a bit nicer in the morning." After Ivo told us the depth of how we're being attacked at night, I figured I'd better shield up, and I think it helps. But I do practice that. I stop myself in the middle of a negative mood and talk myself out of it. And it works. When it inevitably tries to trigger me again, I say, "Nope. Not going there. Nice try, Ivo," and this is mind control. Demonics attempting to get you angry so they can feed as well. And your life, admittedly, could be a lot better. But to continue with bad moods and ruminating about people who you do not like will get you nowhere. Absolutely nowhere, but worse off. Because what you think now creates your future. Me, there have been men before him who told me I'm fat and I should eat better. He's not the first one. What really incenses me is that it's none of his business, and he is a busybody too. You can be rest assured that all the other tenants know your business because he's the one telling them. Ivo, so what is the most positive move to make then? Me, tell him nothing, and when he gets out of line, tell him to mind his own business. Ivo, correct. Then you will have nothing left to judge him for. Do you see? Me, yes, being assertive saves you having to be passive-aggressive or aggressive with someone you dislike. Ivo, people who judge others need to work on themselves. Then the problem will go away. Me, thanks, Ivo. We all slide back and forth and make mistakes. It's not a perfect process, but in the end, you suffer from your own anger. Speaking of which, the French fry truck is outside with When the Saints Go Marching In, playing outside. Ivo, smiling, the song annoys you, but you must look at the fact that it is a trigger for you that is really the problem. Also, that is your favorite fry truck. You have eaten there many times before at this company. Me, yes, I can feel the tension in my arms. Ivo, you are not triggered as much as you wish he would not park in front of your home. Me, lol, I'm not going to start that bad habit this year. I'm off French fries and I don't need ice cream. I've been baking sugar-free and find it a wonderful solution for my sweet tooth. I can eat as many brownies as I want guilt-free, but the irony is because there's no sugar in them, I eat one or two. I have control back. Ivo, and you realize that so many of your foods are laced with sugar, and it was not the sugar you wanted as much as the taste of the pumpkin pie, or the taste of the ice cream. But the sugar is what kept you hooked on that food, coming back for more and feeling out of control. Me, yes. I know I'll find sugar-free ice cream somewhere. I'll just wait. Ivo, and you also realize that not every food you ate for its sugar content. Such as broccoli or cauliflower. You enjoy these foods, but they do not contain much sugar. The sugar that is put into your processed foods is what kept you hooked on buying them, but now you have found a way out. Me, yes, and it works too. Thank you, Ivo. Ivo, my love, bit by bit, all of you walk away from the matrix as a group. People invent sugar-free recipes, others create non-toxic products, many are focused on raising their frequency in these ways, and others. You are all leaving humanity's past behind.